Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is the 30th of September. Wow, time's going by pretty fast. Um, we have Esther with us again for the third time. It's always great to have her. Bring her back up. There we go. That's better. I want to show everybody your new do there. It's really nice.
Thank
Um,
you.
we are going to talk about the Menendez brothers again, but kind of a twist to it. You want, I guess, there are rumors that are going around that are fiction, and you want to kind of just get rid of those and say these are the facts, basically. Correct?
Netflix has done a 9-part series called Monsters that was produced by the same producer who produced the Dahmer series. And a lot of people were waiting with like holding their breath because the Dahmer series portrayed Jeffrey Dahmer, of all people, a guy who actually ate human burgers. He killed people and then he made hamburgers out of them. No, human burgers.
Human
Uh,
burgers.
yes, Ryan Murphy portrayed Jeffrey Dahmer in a somewhat sympathetic light. I think as sympathetic as you could possibly make a serial killer cannibal. And so a lot of people thought that Lyle and Eric were going to be portrayed sympathetically in this series, but they are not. A very unflattering portrait of, in particular, Lyle has been painted, and there are all kinds of events that occur in the film that come from a particular journalist named Dominic Dunn, who absolutely adamantly, passionately hated the Menendez brothers, and he wrote for Vanity Fair. And most of where this all comes from is Dominic Dunn's Vanity Fair articles. Dominic Dunn was a very, very, very hardcore pro prosecution. His daughter, tragically, Dominique, appeared in the huge hit 80s film Poltergeist with Heather O'Rourke. They're
Oh, okay.
here. And she was a victim of domestic violence. She was murdered at age 20 by her boyfriend after having been repeatedly abused by him.
Oh,
And
yeah, I heard about that. I did hear about that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the killer, the guy who killed her, got off with just manslaughter. So Dominic Dunn became kind of like the avenger for the prosecutor in pretty much every case he covered, including this one. And he
Hmm.
really went out of his way to trash the kids, Lyle and Eric. And yes, most of this series is based on his reporting. A lot
Okay.
of it is false, though. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. The series opens actually with Lyle cursing a blue streak, and it's also like there are flashbacks to Halloween, and Lyle and Eric Menendez are handing out king size Snicker bars, but Lyle is threatening the trick or treaters that he's going to shove the Snickers bars up their ASSs. And yeah, there's actually never any evidence to suggest that he did that.
Yeah.
It's all just sort of fabricated to, I guess, draw in the attention of the viewers. And then there's stuff that's just completely left out. There's a lot of time given to the psychotherapist. The kids actually confessed to a therapist they were court ordered to go and talk to because they had gotten caught committing a series of burglaries. Now, so to make the point, these children were not perfect. So there may be some truth to some of the accusations in the film, but yeah. So how they got caught was that they confessed to their psychotherapist, and he turned them in. But what isn't mentioned in the film is uh, he that therapist turned them in exchange for charges being dropped against him for drugging and raping female clients. And Lyle and Eric claimed that a lot of the things that therapist claimed they said were actually not true. So, I mean, it's the word of two kids who riddled their parents with bullets against a therapist who was accused of drugging and raping female clients. Take
Right.
your
Well,
pick.
But wasn't he bound by client-patient privilege?
I would think so. Apparently, an audio tape was made of Lyle and Eric uh, talking to him about killing their parents. That because according to the law, if a client threatens you, yes, then you can do away with confidentiality. And so he claimed that Lyle had threatened him, but his mistress said that no, he made that up. That never happened. Lyle never threatened him. Now, in the series, Judalon Smith, Oziel's mistress, is portrayed as a very sort of loud-mouthed. She curses a lot. It's a very unflattering portrait of her. Actually, she was very soft-spoken, both in interviews she gave and on the witness stand, and she doesn't curse. So I'm not sure where all that comes from, but she was the one who went to the police and she said that yes, she wanted charges brought against Oziel, that he had repeatedly drugged and raped her, and that he had also basically held her captive in his house for some period of time. Apparently, she wasn't the only one, but they wouldn't pursue it because they wanted Oziel as their star witness against Lyle and Eric Menendez. I mean, his mistress wasn't anybody, I guess, that mattered enough to them. And they were looking for a win in this very, very high profile case against these two, who were perceived to be spoiled brats from Beverly Hills.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the opening of the film. And yeah.
Wow.
What
do you say, 45 minutes apiece for each episode?
Yeah, that would be about right. So,
okay.
It goes on to actually, some of the incidents of the children having been abused are actually shown. And the point is made that too much evidence suggested this actually did happen for it all to have been made up. But yeah, it kind of comes off painting, I think, all four of them as horrible human beings. And uh, but the only person who has anything nice to say about Jose Menendez in the film, like in real life, was his secretary, who was probably his only friend. And yes, in the film, they have at the very beginning, Lyle say to Eric, they're in the limousine on the way to their parents' memorial service. And actually, no, it's Eric who says to Lyle, "Are those dad's shoes?" As if it would be a horrible thing to be wearing their dad's shoes, which seems weird. Like, I'm not sure what the big deal would be about that. And Lyle says, yes. And Eric looks like that's just an awful thing. Where they got that was that the secretary said on the witness stand that she was in the limousine with them, and that Lyle said to her, "Who said I can't fill my father's shoes?" And she then said, "Well, you make your own tracks in life." And then Lyle said, "These are my father's shoes." And his attorney countered it by showing a video of him walking into the memorial service where he's wearing not shoes, but boots. So either he was wearing his father's boots or the secretary made that all up. But yeah,
Right.
that was, yeah. And she was pretty mad at them. You could tell she was practically spitting bullets at them from the witness stand. But other than that, no one seemed particularly saddened by that Jose Menendez had been killed. He was hardly someone who made many friends. He certainly did make a lot of money. But like we talked about in the last episode, there was a member of the former boy band, Menudo, who has
Mhm.
since come forward, who claimed he has no ties to anybody in this case, absolutely no reason, none whatsoever, to making this all up, who has claimed that when he was 13 years old, Jose Menendez, who was the manager of the band Menudo, or he was an entertainment executive,
Yeah.
that was one of the bands that he managed, that he was drugged and raped by Jose Menendez. And that does not, there's no mention of any of that in the film. And yeah, so it's like I don't think that the film actually takes any particular position one way or another. I think it just sort of gets in there and trashes all four of them. There are a lot of scenes of Kitty Menendez being drunk and belligerent and being verbally abusive to everybody around her, and you see Jose uh, belittling his children, and there are hints that he himself may have Jose might have been a victim of child abuse, or he claims to be in the film, although in real life, no one ever said he said anything. But
Some,
yes, it
sometimes you have to.
it yeah
Sometimes you have. Go ahead. So sometimes you have to add a little bit of hyperbole sometimes to these things to get people, you know, into the movie or the video. You know,
yeah
you got to add
yes
here, you got to take away here. You know, if that person
yeah
was just a little angry, you got to make them really angry. Kind of draws the crowd in, you know. So some of this
yeah.
stuff is just, you know,
But again, back to it's interesting because this filmmaker actually portrayed Jeffrey Dahmer in a somewhat sympathetic light. So it's weird, kind of, to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people were surprised by this that he did this. Now he did do the scene of the actual murder itself, where the parents are standing up. That's in every other dramatization I have ever seen. The parents have been sitting on the couch eating berries and ice cream, and that's not what happened. There was never any evidence to suggest that they were eating berries and ice cream. They were standing up.
they
But
were
yes,
standing up. Okay.
they were. And yeah, so anyway, they've got an actor who passes sort of for Eric. I have never seen any dramatization that has gotten an actor who looks anything at all like Lyle. And in this case, they didn't even try. The actor who's portraying Lyle has kind of like dishwater blonde hair. They didn't even try to find an actor with black hair like Lyle had. But yeah,
Right.
at the very beginning, somebody shoves a microphone into Lyle's face and calls him Eric. But apparently that happens often where people thought Lyle was the younger brother, possibly because he's shorter. But Ryan Murphy, the filmmaker, seemed to really have it in for Lyle. He really portrayed Lyle as almost sort of sociopathic. And in fact, I think behind the scenes, the lawyer who plays Jill Lansing said that she thought Lyle might be a sociopath. Jill Lansing was Lyle's attorney. I didn't pick up on any vibe watching the trial that she thought
Yeah.
he was a sociopath. But yeah, so that's kind of like the overview of how it all gets started and what people are expecting versus how it actually ends up playing itself out, throwing everybody for a loop. And there's a lot of stuff from the 80s, like the band Milli Vanilli playing in the background. Jose Menendez managed Milli Vanilli. And there's also
Oh, did he?
the scene.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then there's this scene, like I said, where they're handing out Snickers bars to trick-or-treaters. You can also see kids dressed up like Michael Jackson in a flashback to the 80s. This all happened late 80s. And you can see the poofy 80s hair. And they've got an actress in who is playing Lyle's girlfriend, who doesn't look anything at all like her. And a lot of people think, I've been looking at what people are saying about the actress who's playing Eric's attorney, Leslie Abramson. A lot of people think that actress does a good Leslie Abramson. I don't really think so. I think you'd need an actress who's a native New Yorker to be able to really get her accent and mannerisms right. But she's a pretty good actress. And you can see in the real life story, Lyle and Eric's lawyers actually seemed very, very, very passionate about wanting to defend them and seemed to care deeply about them. And you can see it in the series that Leslie actually does care about Eric. But the actress who's playing Jill Lansing doesn't act much like she thinks Lyle's very innocent. And yeah, so they end up, of course, in jail. And in the series, Eric has a a relationship, a there's a somewhat pornographic scene where
Mm.
he and another inmate, who's of course a guy, because it's not a co-ed prison. Yeah, they yeah, yes, they engage in a certain activity that is, how do they say it now? NSFW, not suitable for wide audiences. And yeah, where that comes from is that the prosecutor, Pam, and in the series, by the way, her name is pronounced Bozanich. That's not how it was pronounced in the real trial. It was Bozanich. She claimed that she had heard stories from the jail that Eric had been having those kinds of relationships with inmates. And so I'm not sure what the need was to throw that in there other than to kind of get people's attention and get
Right.
people talking about it and get people going.
You know, when I
And
was looking uh, for the thumbnail for this video, I came across
yeah,
a picture of the Menendez family, and I'm
yeah,
looking at them like, wait a minute, this looks nothing like them. Let me
I
let
know,
me
I know.
let me bring it up real quick so you can
Okay.
see it. Um, where is it at here? Here it is, right here. Watch. Okay, it's got a. Anyway, yeah, it looked absolutely nothing. It might have been from that. Here it is. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
You see it?
Yeah. No,
Look,
they don't look anything at all like
nothing.
Lyle and Eric, Jose and Kenny.
Are these the ones from the series?
Yes.
Or oh, they are.
Yes, these are the
Okay.
actors from Monsters. Yes.
They look nothing like Lyle and Eric. Nothing.
No, I know.
The dad, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, kind of a very vague resemblance.
Very vague. So that's what's passing off. I mean, you would think they would
Yeah.
get someone who actually looks somewhat like them, you know.
Yeah. Now there's another family photograph from when the children are much younger, and it doesn't appear at all in the series. It's a photograph of just Jose with Lyle and Eric, and Lyle is sitting on Jose's lap, and Jose's hand it's kind of creepy, is on Lyle, who's about 6 in the picture's crotch, and Lyle has his hand over his father's hand. This was shown in court. Most of the pictures of that particular picture that you can find online are cropped so that you can't see that part of what's going on in the photograph. So
Right.
yeah, there were actually a lot of pictures shown at the trial that, of course, you don't see in the series. I talked about it in the last video. One of them was a picture of Eric when he would have been a toddler, barely a toddler, hanging from a high bar at the gym where the one hand is slipping off the bar, and Eric is screaming in the picture. And Jose's standing off to the side in the picture with not with his hands up, waiting to catch him, but just standing there looking up at him. And Eric is higher than Jose is. So if he falls, he's
Uh-huh.
going to smack his head. And the aunt who gave that picture to the defense team said she was there when it was taken and that it was Kitty who took the picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There was also a
Interesting.
photograph shown at the trial of Lyle, and this didn't come up in the series, with when he's 8, with a really horrific looking black eye. And he said it was from Jose having thrown him into a coffee table, and he still had the scar as an adult. It was shown, he pointed to it. And yeah, a child abuse expert actually testified that mark on his face was consistent with the story he told about having been thrown into the coffee table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know that uh which one had the toupee?
Lyle.
Lyle. Lyle finally said, you know what? To hell with the toupee. I'm going cue ball, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you see any recent pictures of him, he's as bald as a ping pong ball. Yeah.
I happen to have one here. There he is.
Yes. Yeah.
He has
And,
kind of Uncle
yeah.
Fester type of look to him there.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but when he was a lot younger, now this was during the trial, actually, he ended up getting letters from a model who was beautiful, named Anna Erickson, and the two of them ended up getting married. She
Married.
has divorced him since
Oh,
then.
really?
Yes, yeah, and he's
Oh,
gotten remarried to a woman named Rebecca Sneed, who actually is very, very, very loyal to him. She went and got a law degree so that she could defend him in appellate proceedings. And yeah, apparently there has, I know we talked about this before, been new evidence that not only did the band member from Menudo come forward, but they also a letter was found among the belongings of a deceased relative of a letter Eric had written when he was, I think it was not too much time before the homicides, talking about what was going on between himself and his father.
Has there been any updates or anything on that?
Apparently, yeah, there have been. There's they're just waiting for a result, and it's kind of like normally, according to what people are saying about it, you'd get the answer back, and the answer would be no very quickly. And apparently, it's been, like months have gone by, giving the impression that possibly it could be in their favor. But it's not like the doors would just open and they'd walk out. I mean, they'd have to be resentenced. So, yeah, I mean, but they remain hopeful from everything I've heard.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if they ever decide to retry it, I don't know. Who knows? They might get off.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a different attitude toward them today, but from what I've heard, they've pretty much resigned themselves to spending their lives locked up. That, they've, I guess, as much as you could, kind of just accepted it. Apparently, they're in like the best facility you could be in California. That they're in basically like the equivalent of sort of a Holiday Inn for prisons. It's nothing like Norway. Norway has luxury prisons where they actually have like tennis courts and horseback riding. Seriously.
Yeah.
And inmates have their own room with like video games and internet. But yeah, they've for prisoners, apparently I've heard they have it pretty good. Probably about the best you could
Is
be.
it a maximum security prison or is it a minimum security prison?
Apparently they're in like a special wing of a maximum security prison where like they put honor prisoners who's never been in any trouble before, and they've gotten degrees and I have not gotten into any particular trouble. Now there's a scene in the series where Eric gets into a fight with an inmate over a book. Apparently an inmate stole Eric's book and Eric confronted him and wanted it back, and a huge fight ensues. That comes from Eric's wife's book. Eric's wife wrote a book about her experiences being married to him and all the things that they talked about, and that is something that did happen, that he felt like he had to stand up to the guy, even though it was just about a book. But that if he didn't kind of do what he needed to do to make the point that he's not going to just kind of tolerate it off of people, he was basically done, finished. His life was over. They were going to eat him alive in jail. But yeah,
I have two pictures. We already saw one of them, the Menendez family from the series. Okay. So here's the real Menendez family. All right. That's the real Menendez family right there.
Yes.
Yes. Compare that to the.
No, I know.
No. It's not even close. They should have had an extra casting call because they could have. I mean, the mom. You look at her here and there.
Yeah.
No. Take a pass.
Yeah.
The dad, he's got the hair parted. He's got the hair parted as well.
Yeah.
Lyle on the right.
Yeah, I know.
They switched spots, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did.
No,
yeah.
No, that the actor who plays Lyle is on the left.
Oh, okay. So Eric they both have red ties, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, they got red ties as well. Now the dad's got the striped tie.
Right.
And he's got the striped tie. So at least they got the wardrobe correct.
Yeah. And the actress who plays Kitty has got the bleached blonde hair.
Oh, either that or it's a wig. Well, maybe it is bleach blonde. Yeah.
It could be a wig.
With a gold necklace as well.
Yeah.
Yep, she's got a gold necklace. Of course, the arms. This one here, you see like it's kind of pleated a little bit. Pleated.
Yeah.
On this one, it's not.
Yeah.
So, but either way, you know, I don't know. It's just they could have picked some better, some more actors. I think that actually looked like them. I mean, I know it's Hollywood. I know it's entertaining, you know, but it's like when you have a movie that comes out, say, I don't know, a movie that ends up being a blockbuster hit, right? And
Yeah.
the main character doesn't want to do a part two. Okay. So they bring in another actor who looks absolutely nothing like him, and they try and portray him as the original character. It's like, no, if you don't have the original character, just don't do the movie. You know, that's what I think. If the main actor dies, that's it. That series is over. That movie's over. Don't even bother. So
Yeah, they did get actresses who played the lawyers who bear sort of a vague resemblance to them. The actress who plays Leslie Abramson has the perm. What's funny is that throughout the film, they show the attorneys going to visit with Lyle and Eric in the prison, and they're still wearing the same outfits they'd wear to court. They're all dressed up in courtroom attire, which is just funny. Of course, in real life, if they're going to visit a, client who's in jail, they're wearing sweats. They're going
yeah.
in jeans and t-shirts, but they make them look super glamorous, throughout the entire film. They also left out a lawyer named Paul Moniz, who actually, believe it or not, if you can imagine this being a specialty, he specialized in defending children who killed their parents. And yeah, he doesn't appear in the film, but he was accused of planting the ideas into their heads. It was not an accusation that was ever proven, but it does come up in the movie that I think the prosecutor brought up the complaint that she felt that they had read his book and had gotten the ideas from reading the book, and also that it was actually brought up. The prosecutor, I was surprised that they were allowed to bring this to the jury, that Lyle had researched cases where children had killed their parents. I didn't understand why he wasn't allowed to research his case. You'd think if you're awaiting trial, you can do that, but
Sure.
the prosecutor was allowed to bring that up to the jury, obviously insinuating that that was where he got the idea that he made this all up. But yeah, so, and
Wow.
there was, yeah. Now, a lot of people were talking about, because a lot of people found this deeply offensive, that apparently, this is creepy, but it was in the film that it's sort of insinuated or suggested that Lyle and Eric had some sort of an incestuous relationship with each other. And at first, I didn't even notice it. Like, I was just reading what people were saying, and I'm like, what? I didn't see. I had to watch it again to see a few brief scenes where, yeah, they are kind of like kissing each other on the lips. It does seem sort of strange, but apparently,
Wow.
yeah, apparently where the idea for that came from was that one of the male jurors on Eric's jury suggested that he thought that had happened. So
Oh,
yeah, a lot of people
okay.
have, this case seems to bring out uh, people thinking all and saying some bizarre, creepy things.
Oh, sure. You're going to have all kinds of conspiracy theories out there. You know, pretty soon you're going to get that one where the parents are still alive,
Yeah,
just hiding
yeah,
somewhere. You know,
yeah, yeah.
it'll happen soon enough. It always does. So that was that the fourth episode, fifth
I'm not
episode.
sure what episode we're on here. Uh, yes, but
Wow.
yeah, we were talking about the actors and how well they portray or look like different people. Actually, I thought the actor who played Dominic Dunn actually did kind of do a good Dominic Dunn. And there was also the judge. The actor who plays the judge doesn't look anything at all like him, and doesn't really kind of. They don't sort of give the the sort of atmosphere that was in the courtroom, where there was this like extreme tension between Leslie Abramson and the judge, which a lot of people thought it was because Leslie Abramson was just sort of a prima donna, that she was constantly trying to sort of cause trouble between her and him. But I thought more likely she was trying to just sort of distract the jurors from the crime scene pictures the prosecutor kept putting up. The prosecutor, like every single chance they got, they flashed those pictures of Jose and Kitty with, their bodies riddled with bullets and having been blown to bits. Of course, they wanted those up there as many times as they could get them up there. So I guess if you're the defense attorney, you'll do anything you can to try to get the jurors' attention off of it.
I've tried to look for some crime scene photos of that with showing Kitty, and I can't find them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Unless I have to go to the dark web, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
If I have to dig deeper, but I don't know. It's not that important, but it would be nice to see the photos, just to see, what it actually looked like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were shot multiple times, and it was pretty gruesome. And how they would have gotten caught if actually a lot sooner than they did, if Eric hadn't been allowed, and they did show this in the film, to go back to his car and get his tennis equipment. So he claimed, but actually what he went to get was the bloody clothing, the clothes that were soaked with blood, and he was able to dispose of them. And so it was 6 months before they got caught.
I mean, and I still wrap my head around why. What was it? Lyle he was overseas.
No, it was Eric.
Eric was overseas.
Yes.
And he came back. I mean, he knew.
Yeah.
It was probably going to cost him either the death penalty or life sentence, but he came back anyway.
I know. These were very, very, very high priced lawyers. This was Robert Shapiro who gave him this advice. And I have no idea. The only thing at all I've ever been able to think of is that he was being paid off. They also got some really bad advice from a lawyer named Joel Isaacson, who was the one who encouraged them to make audio tapes of their conversations with the psychotherapist. Those audio tapes that basically were the end of their life. Now, the reason they were advised to do this was that supposedly if they were going to go with a psychological defense, these tapes could be to their benefit. But no, this therapist, Dr. Oziel, was not on their side and wasn't going to try to dig for anything that could be helpful to them. It came up in the movie repeatedly, where in the film version, the actor who plays Oziel repeatedly asks Eric why he killed his parents. And Eric keeps saying, I don't know. And he asks him specifically, were you abused? And Eric says, no. In real life, both Eric and the shrink backed up when he took the witness stand. He never once asked Eric, not once, why he did it, and never asked him at all whether or not he'd been abused. So, yeah, they have this tape where they basically admit premeditation, and Lyle comes off sounding absolutely horrible. He says at one point, and there was I still remember, I watched this live, and there was a stunned silence in the courtroom. Like you could feel the air coming out of the courtroom. He says, I miss my parents. I miss my dog too, if I may make such a gross analogy. And yes, they claim on the tape that the reason they killed their parents was because their father treated their mother badly, but that then they killed their mother because she wouldn't be able to live without their father, which is just absolutely crazy. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. But at the very, very, very start of it, they talk about say something about the Kennedy brothers, which is kind of eerie because the Kennedy brothers were assassinated 5 years apart. If you know anything about the Kennedy assassinations.
Right.
So, yeah, when they had their own psychological expert come analyze the tape, he was like, yeah, see, they're talking about 2 murder victims right here, right off the bat. But the therapist doesn't pick up on it. But yeah, that therapist didn't care about them. He was hitting them up for money, because he had this information and he knew they were rich. So basically he was blackmailing them. But the series doesn't really show it. And the series makes the girlfriend who accused him of rape seem just crazy. And the actor back to who looks like who the actor they picked to play that guy looks nothing at all like him. So the moral of
Not
the
su-
story is, yeah,
not
don't
surprised.
don't trust your shrink. Nothing is private. I've heard that actually the idea that you have some sort of confidentiality is overblown. That your right to privacy is not sort of as protected as a lot of people think it is. So be careful what you say to anybody,
Yeah,
including your priest and including your shrink.
yeah, especially your shrink. Um, yeah, I mean, you said they were rich. They were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They had all this money. Like I said, Eric was overseas. Lyle could have just packed up and left to another country with no extradition laws, and they'd
Yes.
probably still trying to get him back here today. But that didn't happen.
Yeah,
Like you
and
said, don't trust him.
back to bad advice from lawyers. Now, this is something that wasn't mentioned in the movie. Uh, One of Lyle's lawyers, the same lawyer who gave him the really bad advice to make that audio tape with the therapist, uh, brought up this idea that he should ask his girlfriend to lie and say that Jose tried to rape her. The girlfriend wouldn't do it, and it wasn't allowed to be. Well, they did kind of bring it up, but they weren't allowed to go into any detail about it at the trial
Hmm.
because his attorney, the attorney who actually ended up representing him, was co-counsel at the time, and it could reflect badly on her, even though she had nothing. There was no reason at all to think she had anything at all to do with this, or that she even knew about it. But that it could damage her reputation if it came in. So there was this really potentially explosive piece of evidence. Like Lyle actually tried to do something that is highly illegal, talk a witness into saying that his father tried to rape her, and it barely was mentioned at the trial. Although she was able to just kind of bring it up briefly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the girlfriend that was played by an actress who looked nothing at all like her.
Now their wives today. I mean, but first of all, when was this documentary made? Do you know?
The film Monsters.
Yeah.
It's a dramatization. It's not a documentary.
Okay. Dramatization. Do you know what year it was done?
This year,
Oh, this year,
we're talking
2024.
about the Netflix series.
Right. Okay. I
Yeah,
thought it'd been a couple of years or something.
no,
Okay.
it's new.
Brand new, huh?
Yes.
And I know now that I'm seeing that guy, I think the dad was in what's that movie? No Country for Old Men.
Oh, really?
Debardu, I think his name is, or
He's a good actor.
Debardo. That's
He's entertaining to watch, and he does a good Jose Menendez.
yes, I think that is him. It looks like him.
Yeah,
So the one on the left looks like Justin Bieber almost,
yeah.
and the guy on the right, I don't know who he looks like. Never seen him
He's
before.
supposed to look like Eric Menendez.
Yeah, yeah. Tell it to somebody who hasn't been watching movies his whole life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, well, yeah, like I said, like I said, they throw in a lot of fiction with facts in the movies just to kind of keep the people there, keep them watching, keep them entertained. Only problem is a lot of people are gullible. They'll say, "Oh, this is what really happened." Okay, I believe that.
Actually, believe it or not, although it seems to paint an extremely unflattering portrait of both Lyle and Eric, and in particular Lyle, who the guy Ryan Murphy who produced this film seems to hate. A lot of people who've watched this, I've gone and I've read the comments in the places like on Reddit, are saying things like, before I watched this, I wasn't very sympathetic to them, but now I kind of believe them, and I think they should get out of prison. So it is weird, but yeah, it hasn't really backfired that badly on them, I don't think.
Well, truthfully, I hope that they do get a new trial. And if their dad was abusing them, as they said, um, maybe they pretty much done their time, and it's.
I only needed to hear Roy Rusolo, the former band member from Menudo, make a claim that he has no reason, no motive, none whatsoever to making this all up, that he was raped at age 13 by Jose Menendez. And as far as I'm concerned, you do something like that, you deserve to have your brain blown out. I think it's really hypocritical. We say, how many times do people say that people who do stuff like that deserve to die? And then when somebody actually does it, we say, well, you know, you're going to now spend the rest of your life in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll call it you call them a vigilante or something like that, and then of course the person who died is the victim, and the one who was repeatedly raped his whole life is the criminal now. So
Yeah, I mean, I could see some people being sympathetic to Kitty, who was married herself to an abuser. I mean, there's no question about as to whether or not Jose treated her very, very, very badly. He did, and in fact, he used to beat her up, and he cheated on her, and you know, he basically ruined her life. And it's possible that she didn't report him to the police for what she had to have known was going on with him
right.
with the kids, because she was scared to death of him. But yeah, as for Jose, the only person who seemed to have anything nice to say about him or any affection for him was his secretary. Even his sisters testified against him.
I mean, don't you think? I mean, the only people that know about Kitty's personal life are the sons and Jose. I mean, she could have been a complete, bitch the whole time.
Well, there were multiple witnesses who testified about some very unflattering things about her. I know I talked about this in the last video we did. One of Eric's teachers said that she called Kitty in for a parent-teacher conferences, and that Kitty showed up belligerent and drunk and, verbally abusing the teacher. There were all sorts of anecdotes like that. One cousin who was visiting said that Lyle had gotten like a large, like a pussy blister on his face, and that Kitty wanted to, rather than take him to an ER and have it taken care of there, just take a razor blade herself and cut it open. But that he stopped her, saying, no, you can't do that. And yeah.
Lancet.
They were a weird family.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, behind closed doors, they're the only ones that know. That's it. We can speculate all we want.
Yeah, people did see things. It's not like nobody saw anything. Actually, they had company over one time. These were adults, and Jose showed people and everybody was absolutely shocked. A Brazilian film. Now, I've actually seen it, but it was intended not as child pornography, but it does have scenes that in the United States would absolutely be considered. You could not show a film like this here. It would be illegal. And people were apparently at their house when he put this into the VCR. It's called Pixote, Pixote. If anybody wants to go and look it up, it does show a fair amount of child nudity. It's a film about child prostitution, and not the kind of thing that would be a social norm to show people in your house here.
Right.
So people were pretty freaked out about it. And yeah, somebody was allowed to testify to
it's not just something you pop into the VCR and go, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Watch this, fast forward, rewind.
Yeah, and a child abuse expert did testify that Eric was treated at age 7 for an injury to the back of his throat that was consistent with,
oral sex.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's no reason to think they were making this all up, or that they even could have, with the amount of evidence they had to suggest that this actually did happen.
I mean, I believe that it happened. I just believe that they went about it the wrong way.
But a lot of people said they could have just left, but people are killed after they leave all the time. I mean, Jose Menendez, Lyle said, would rather go on trial for murder than for being a pedophile. And that's probably true. What reason did he have not to kill these children? They're threatening to expose him and basically destroy his life.
Yeah. Well, what has happened has happened. Can't go back now. In hindsight,
Well, what we have left of this is now a Netflix series. Yeah, people are capitalizing off of it, and but a lot of I actually used to live in a high crime area, and I read the newspaper every day, and probably about a third to a fourth of all of the homicides were domestics. So family members kill each other all the time. We only hear
Oh yeah,
about it when it's in Beverly Hills and on Elm Drive, like Nightmare on Elm Street. That's where they lived,
right.
Elm Drive of all places.
Elm
And the
Drive.
other thing they left out of the series was that the kids that night, that right after they blasted their parents to death, went to get tickets to try to use for an alibi to the first movie they tried to get tickets to was License to Kill. And I don't know why they left that out of the movie. I don't, but it didn't come up.
Yeah, License to Kill. I saw that one when it came out.
You
So
did?
I even saw the stuff in 1985. So I mean, what does that? What does that matter?
Okay.
You've never seen the stuff? Oh my
No.
goodness! It's about a killer yogurt. So
But yeah, at the beginning of the movie, they show trick or treaters, and they show kids dressed up as Michael Jackson. Not only is this a you know goes with the time frame, but also it's another now people now accused Michael Jackson of being a pedophile.
right, yep. Um, License to Kill. They weren't able to get into that movie,
No, so
right?
they ended
So
up going with Batman,
Batman.
and then they went to a wine tasting party to try to find a friend of theirs so that they could use that to establish an alibi. So that's what Beverly Hills cool kids do on the weekends. They go to wine tasting parties.
Movies and wine tasting. There you go. Must be nice.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't have minded growing up in Beverly Hills. Did you ever see the movie Clueless?
no.
Okay, well, it's a movie about a girl who grew up in Beverly Hills with Alicia Silverstone.
Oh, I've heard of the movie, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, well, after I watched that movie, I wanted to go and live in Beverly Hills.
But no, you're not there.
No, no,
No.
I'm certainly not. Wait, you might get rich enough from doing these podcasts to get
Oh yeah.
to Beverly Hills
Oh yeah.
and
I already
to
have
pay for yeah
to pay for
yeah
what? Beverly
tuition to
Hills,
Princeton.
Princeton.
Yeah, Lyle got kicked out of Princeton. A big deal was made out of that in the film. In the film, he got suspended for a year for plagiarism, but actually in real life, he was suspended for 1 semester for copying a homework, which seems like kind of an overblown reaction to somebody copying a homework. It wouldn't have affected his final grade. So they show this scene in Monsters in the Netflix series of Jose going storming down to the president's the college president, which I guess is the equivalent of a principal, and
Mm-hmm.
demanding that they allow his son to remain as a student at the school, belligerent and saying all kinds of obscene things to the college president. Actually, Jose did go and try to talk the president of the college into lifting the suspension, but was unsuccessful at being able to do that. So Lyle was suspended for a semester for copying homework.
Well, that is technically plagiarism. I mean,
I guess, yeah.
you could spin it and say it's not, but I mean, it sounds like plagiarism to me. Copied off of something else. Yeah.
So
But
yeah. So after Lyle, after the parents were killed, he never did go back to Princeton, but instead what he did was open up a hot wings restaurant, or he bought one across the street from the school. Now this is touched on the movie, but they don't kind of go into too much detail. What he did, because he didn't know how to run a business, was he overpaid. He hired friends of his and like just way overpaid them, and then was letting friends of his from school come in and order off the menu all day without charging them. You cannot run a business like that. So I guess the business went under. It was called Chuck's Spring Street Cafe, and they're actually talking about it in the first scene in the movie. So yeah.
yeah, he sounds like quite a business savant, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, what would most 21-year-olds who've been handed money to open a business do?
Yeah, I know. I know. You tend to squander it, you know. I remember those days, just throwing money away, having fun, you know, partying, not worried about what was going to happen when you get to be in your, you know, middle age years and twilight years. So,
You get to do podcasts.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I get to do that and other things. So, and I don't know. It seems like it's still a good life. I'm alive. I woke up this morning. I'm breathing. So I guess
Well,
that's check mark for me.
that is always good. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the alarm goes up and you wake up and at
You
three.
haven't. That means you haven't made anybody mad enough to do anything like that.
That's true. That's true. My kids, yeah, they're not out to kill me. Thank goodness.
That's well, you. That's a start. It's the first step.
Well, they're 29 and 28 now, so they're out of the house. So
Well, the film does show the intergenerational child abuse. There's a scene in the Netflix series where Jose confronts his mother over the phone. There's no evidence to suggest he actually ever did that, but apparently Jose's sister did say that their mother had a creepy interest in him, and he claims in the film that his father was very abusive, but that never came up in the trial. I don't know where they got that. I think they just made it up.
yeah, you hear a lot of stories about that, especially with the wealthy families. This incestual stuff going on. You know, I mean, not all the time. Sometimes it happens to the middle class and the poor, but the wealthy, they're always in the headlines.
Well,
So,
they can keep things hidden, so they probably actually get away with more. Money buys privacy.
that's true. That's
And
true.
yeah, a lot of people, the perception of Lyle and Eric was that they were just going to walk away with no consequence because, oh, well, they're rich and they can hire, high priced legal teams. Actually, it was used against them that they happened to be rich. People
Yeah.
just thought they were a couple of spoiled brats who, had been handed everything. In fact, on Eric's jury, apparently behind the scenes, the first jury, the one that couldn't reach a decision, it, a lot of the jurors felt that a lot of the jurors who were pro prosecution were actually very jealous of the boys. That it colored their view of the case.
Yeah, I was a little biased there. Yeah. The fact that they're rich and they weren't, and I could see a jealousy factor there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, these kids had never worked regular 9 to 5 jobs, but they had spent insane amounts of hours being forced to be out on the tennis court playing tennis when they were as young as 6, working.
Right.
It passed the point where, this is a great idea where they were, physically banged up, according to coaches. Lyle had bruises on his shoulder from doing so many, backswings and
Uh,
nobody could talk to Jose about that, this is just too much. He'd keep them there like past, after dark, past 10 o'clock at night on school nights and get them up in the morning before it was time to leave for school. Basically, these kids were basically being worked on the tennis court, uh, you know, but they weren't in the coal mines or out in the fields picking cotton, so people aren't very sympathetic.
right. Right. Yeah. Going to country clubs and playing tennis. Ooh, my goodness.
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to, like you said, coal mines and, stores and, mills and stuff like that,
Yeah. It's a story that
oil
makes.
fields.
Yeah, a point though that it's not like you have a perfect life necessarily just because you live in Beverly Hills. It's hard for a lot of people to grasp, but I guess bad things can happen to rich people.
Yep. It sure does. Maybe they should, that's why a lot of rich people hire bodyguards because,
Well, yes, the film opens with bodyguards being hired for Lyle and Eric because apparently the relatives did believe that the mafia had done the killings, and they went ahead and hired bodyguards for them.
There you go.
That's what you do when you have money. You hire bodyguards and you buy
Yeah,
Rolex watches.
yeah. You got to have bodyguard because you never know who's going to try and kill you and try and take your money.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
so that's what they say to a lot of lottery winners. They said if you win the lottery, make sure you're anonymous and nobody knows who you are.
In some
So,
states, though, they actually make you go public. Like they won't
well,
let you.
that depends. If you put it in like a trust or something like that, you can remain anonymous.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, yeah. But a lot of people don't know that. They'll just say, "Okay, here I am. I just won $48 million, and now you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, coming over trying to be your friend, or all the relatives come out of the woodwork that you've never met before. All of a sudden, they're got their hand out wanting money.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you know it, the money's gone.
Well,
So,
it also buys loyalty. I mean, nobody wanted to turn Jose Menendez into the police. He was footing the bill for a lot of people. He was, supporting a lot of their relatives who had come over from Cuba,
right.
and no one was
It,
going to stand up to him.
it does buy loyalty. You're right.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, the members of their family had known what was going on. It's not like this was really ever that invisible. I mean, Eric would sneak out of the house when he was a toddler, and this wasn't in the series, and go across the street. Jose's sister and brother-in-law lived across the street, and which meant he had to cross a rather wide street by himself, and would go and walk into their house in the morning because
right.
nobody was awake at his house to do anything for him. They just left the kids to raise themselves, basically.
But like you said, maybe they just didn't want to get involved because maybe Jose did something for them.
Yes,
Got them
gave
out of
them
a
money.
bind, give them
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
So, like you said, loyalty. Yeah, definitely.
And then these kids were going to private schools where the teachers absolutely knew something was not right. It was said that in eighth grade, Eric cried at school every day. I mean, this is really abnormal behavior for a 13 to 14-year-old to be crying at school every day. And there were other things that came up where it seemed like people should have noticed that something was not right. But what are they going to do? It's a private school. It's the parents who are paying salaries of the
That's true.
teachers. And one
Yep.
teacher said that during lunch, Eric, or no, actually it was Lyle, would come in and just sit in her office and say nothing for the entire lunch period. That he did this every day until she went and talked to Kitty about it. Like, what's up? Do you know why Lyle's doing this? It seems weird. Is he okay? Like, is there a
Yeah.
problem? And that after that, Lyle never went back to her office.
Well, like I said, Kitty seemed like she was a mean woman, mean, nasty woman to some people.
To some people, and yeah, her brothers had loved her. Both of them testified uh, for the prosecutor and actually tried to have Lyle and Eric put to death in the retrial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's your sister. I mean, I have sisters and brothers too. I would defend them as well.
Well,
Well, certain things.
yeah, my niece and nephew matter
Yeah,
to me more. But
exactly.
okay,
It's family. You know,
yeah.
whether it's brothers, sisters, nephews, cousins, uncles, twice removed, doesn't matter. They're family. So, well, Esther, anything you want to end it with?
I guess there's nothing really left to say other than that if you want to know what really happened, you can find the trial on YouTube. The actual tape recordings of the trial itself. And that's the closest you can get to actually, if you're interested in the real life case,
Right.
what actually happened. There's some other details that you can find, like if you do some digging, like there was an essay Lyle wrote when he was 14 about being on death row for killing a child molester. True story. And
Hmm.
yeah, Eric also wrote a screenplay called Friends, where he wrote a script about a teenager who kills his father. So there's all sorts of stuff out there that is the true story if you know where to look for it. But the first place to go would definitely be just go watch the trial. It's on YouTube, and you
Yep.
can find transcripts of the retrial And the second time around, they wouldn't let cameras in, but you can find the transcripts online. You just have to sort of go look.
And if you want to watch the Netflix
if you want
movie
to be tortured, I didn't think the acting or plot was particularly good, but it's somewhat entertaining. If you want to go watch it, go right ahead.
And it's called Monsters?
Yes, it's called Monsters.
And that's it, just Monsters?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, stay on the line, Esther. We're going to go ahead and close it out. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I think we ought to do one with Jeffrey Dahmer now that you brought his name up.
I've never tried a people burger, so I really couldn't sort of give an accurate, review.
Or the Night Stalker, or Henry Lee Lucas, or one of those guys.
So we can all have nightmares.
That's right.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
I want to thank everybody on Elm Street. There you go. Yep. I want to thank everybody for watching. Like I said, I want to thank Esther once again for coming on and giving us the play-by-play fact versus fiction on this movie. I mean, thanks for jumping on the grenade for us, Esther, and watching all 9 episodes. Appreciate it.
It was somewhat torturous, but I got through it.
I bet. All right, we'll see you in the next one. I don't have anything scheduled right now. I'm going to probably do a live video probably next couple of days. I want to get some people from different troubled teen homes up here to do kind of like a reunion type thing. All right. So for the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself, take care of each other. We'll see you in the next podcast. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right.